My parents got really worried the more I exhibited my psychic ability. And I was at one time even beaten with a Bible, to beat the devil out of me. So my advice to me would be,
Welcome to the It Gets Better From Here podcast with Sherille Marquez, where we help divorced women reclaim their power, rediscover their true self, and rebuild a life even better than before. I'm so excited for this week's guest, Jeff Wilson. He is a vibrational healer because he helped me go from survival mode to thriving mode and beyond. Jeff, welcome to It Gets Better From Here podcast.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I just wanted to share your journey of how you became a vibrational healer and also ask you, for our listeners that don't know what that is, if you could tell them what vibrational healing is and how you got to where you are today.
Okay. Well, wow, that's a long story. I'm going to have to really trim that down. How I got to it was I had suffered from depression for 23 years, took 5 psychotropic drugs a day to cure me. And then I was in the process of getting off of those drugs. And I did it the old fashioned way. I went to a Reiki practitioner on a Monday, a body worker on a Tuesday, homeopathic physician on a Wednesday, hypnotherapist on a Thursday. And I repeated that cycle over and over and over for years. And eventually I was able to get off the drugs on my own and kind of break free of the depression and find the underlying cause and deal with it. And then one day a friend of mine called and said, there's a presentation at such and such hotel tonight. And I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds interesting. It's on vibrational healing. So I went and listened to a man talk for 3 hours about everything is energy, energy is impressed upon matter, and you are matter. And I began to recognize that he was reminding me of who I really am. He wasn't teaching me much of anything. And it also occurred to me that all the time and effort and money that I had spent on all these different practitioners and the different modalities, all of which had appliance, all of which were amazing, all of which were necessary for my journey, that he was talking about doing that like through vibrational healing very quickly and efficiently. And I knew I still had a few things to deal with. So after the event, and I kept my mouth shut the whole time. I didn't say who I was. I didn't say anything about any issues I had or anything like that. There was a young lady in the back of the room. She was one of his apprentices. And she came up to me and she said, again, I had not said anything. And I had just come off of this journey of getting off of all these drugs. She comes up to me and says, I see you have antidepressants in your energy field. And I said, yeah, probably. And she says, would you like me to clear them? And I thought it was cute. So I said, go ahead. And so she literally held her hand up to my heart chakra and did what's called blowing codes. And she just stood there and just pumped codes out of the palm of her hand into my heart chakra. And I didn't feel anything. And she was done. I said, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we went our ways. And then about a month later, I'm at my chiropractor's office. I'm getting worked on, and I'm laying on his table waiting on him to come into the office. And he comes in, touches me, and jumps back 3 feet and says, oh my God, you are off-gassing antidepressants so bad, I can't be in the room with you. And I remembered what that apprentice did for me at that event. And so, to make a long story short, I went back and called the presenter. I called him and I signed up for every public workshop he had and went through everything he offered to the public. And then I applied for the apprentice program. And, the rest they say is history. Now I did this for me because I knew I still had issues from all those years of being on the drugs and being numbed out to life and not participating in my own existence. But I went through the apprentice program, and there's 9 levels of the apprentice program. There's 160 apprentices in the world right now. And there are 15 of us that are all 9 levels, have gone through all 9 levels of the training. And then I just took the training and worked on myself the whole way and got a brand new me. And I figured out how to heal from, the depression first and foremost. And then I saw other people heal from every issue you can imagine. So that made me a believer. And then one day I was had to go on a sabbatical at work, and because I was working for J.P. Morgan Chase, and I was in the IT department. And every 5 years they make you take 6 months off. And so I was on my 6 months, and my wife said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm going to start just playing around with this vibrational healing stuff." And so after 6 months, I put the word out that I was, going to go. I was going to do private sessions and all over the phone and that kind of stuff. And people started coming in, and they got a healing, and they went and told 10 friends, and they got healings, and they told 10 friends. And to make a long story short, after 6 months, they called me to come back to work. And I said, "You know what? I'm going to hang loose for a while. I'm just going to do this. I'm not coming back to the bank." And that was 11 years ago. So that's how I got into it.
Wow, Jeff, that's such a beautiful journey. And, I've worked with you, and I've heard, also, I've digested all of your YouTube videos. I don't even know if you knew that before I started working with you. And I think that just is so fascinating. And, there are people who don't believe in the power of, like vibration. And what I tell my clients is that when you are stepping out into the world, how is, the world responding to you? That's the very frequency vibration that you are emitting. So what they don't realize is how critical this is to know and to, level up our frequency and our vibration. And I really would love for you to just kind of, educate all of us as to the importance of that and all the different levels that we have.
Well, the number one law of the universe is vibration. Period. End of story. Everything vibrates. Everything vibrates. The watch I have on my wrist, the mouse I have on my desk, all the way to my human body vibrates. And what you have to understand is that we are a two-part being. We're a spiritual being having a human experience. And as such, we have what's called an energy field. Everything has an energy field to it. So the mouse on my desk, the tree outside my window, all have individual energy fields. So we think we're a physical body, but that's what we can see and touch. But it's way bigger than that, way bigger than that. So because of vibration, there's multiple and subtle layers. So there's the physical layer, then the etheric layer, then I could go on and just list thousands of different layers that are in this energy field. But when you start looking at the field, that's where healing begins, because the field itself is what generates our reality, and it generates our physical body. So if you have a problem in your life, if you have a problem in your body, if you have a problem in the way you think or process information or perceive the world, chances are there's a root cause in your energy field. So you've got to pay much more attention than just this physical body. And if you can, the cool thing is, if you can identify the issue, it can be cleared with vibration. So it's in there because of vibration, but it can also be cleared by vibration. So what we do is we put counter waves in. So let's say you've got a wave of fear that's in your body mind field complex, and it's constantly vibrating, constantly moving. So you're living in a state of fear, and your view of reality is that of fear. And no matter what you try to do with your life, you can't move forward. You're always in a state of fear. Well, what you do is you put the opposite vibration in. So instead of this one, you put in the counter wave. They touch, they go to zero. And lo and behold, fear disappears. It's that
That
simple.
Wow. It sounds like such a huge concept, but how I love that you have broken it down. And the things that I've learned from you is that it's like a computer program. And if you can help us, for the ones that aren't quite there yet with an understanding. Like, just the computer program concept is really easy for, everyone to understand how it works.
Mhm. Well, yeah, okay. So the analogy I use, because my background is IT, I spent 30 years running like global information network services departments for Fortune 5 companies. So my world is computers. And in that session we were talking about, where the presenter was talking about everything is energy, energy is impressed upon matter, and you are matter. It occurred to me that the universe actually works very similar to a computer network. And the creator is a huge data server somewhere, and we are getting downloaded with information constantly. And we are like the individual computers, and just like computers are programmable, the human part of us is programmable. And that's where we get into trouble sometimes. So that's the good news and the bad news, because the human part of us is the part that mucks things up. If we could really just be as clear as possible and live from our spiritual side, life would be a grand adventure. But the human part of us has programs that are running in the background, programs of fear, programs of judgment, programs of takeaway. And takeaway is basically fearing losing something, you know. And so programs are running. So what you do is you go and you clear those out, just like you would a computer, just like you would scan a computer, find what the issue is, and then put a program in to wipe that out and clear the hard drive. That's exactly what I do with vibrational healing.
And for our listeners, our viewers who are huge skeptics, I just want you to know that first of all, Jeff comes from IT. Okay, he worked at Chase, and now he's a vibrational healer. I mean, hello. And I had a personal experience with one of my coaching programs, and Jeff was a guest, and he was going to do a clearing. Not was he did a clearing, and so I was part of that live session, and I didn't think anything of it. I listened to what Jeff was saying. We all had to do certain exercise, which is just sitting still, putting your palms on your, just, I guess, no, your feet on the floor, and, just relax and breathe. And I had such a profound experience where I wasn't sad. I wasn't thinking of crying. I was just being. And I had a humongous, like, ball of energy come over me. And I just started crying. It wasn't cute crying, it was sobbing. And I couldn't stop crying. And so that was the moment when I said, wow, I need to work with Jeff. And so ever since then, I worked with Jeff, like I mentioned, for many sessions. I was in that survival mode, and we have what's the highest frequency? It's Christ consciousness enlightenment. Is it 1,000 or above 700?
It's 1,000.
It's
Yeah.
it's 1,000. And when I went to Jeff, I was in the like low 300s. I think I was at like 330, and so that represents hopefulness and optimism. Jeff, am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that that is very accurate for how I was feeling, because I was very unclear as to what I was going to do for my next chapter in life. Am I, going to do finance like what I was being told I should be doing, business development there? Or am I going to do a heart centered business, which I know nothing about? I have the gifts, but I know nothing about it. So after working with Jeff, he helped me just from that very first session. I could tell a profound shift, and I was so happy. Jeff, I haven't told you this, but I remember our first session, the very next day, or maybe the same day, I had a birthday party to go to, and everyone there were 4 people there. They were low energy, low energy, and they were just talking about just problems and complaining. And so the celebrant was kind of bummed out that her guests are just bringing down the party per se. And I was the one that I knew my energy was the one that lifted everybody up, because they were ready to go home as soon as they got there. They're like, oh, we're not going to go out after, et cetera, et cetera. Guess what? We ended up staying out till like 2 o'clock in the morning because I changed the energy.
Yeah.
And that was thanks to you. And so could you speak on how how important it is to work on this, on our vibration and leveling up, because it also affects the people around us and vice versa.
Oh yeah, it's like a tuning fork. If you had a room full of tuning forks and they're all silent, if you strike one, eventually that vibration will hit the next fork and the next fork and the next fork and the next fork. And you'll have a room of music, for lack of a better term. And so, yeah, you definitely impact people around you, and that's both for good and for bad. Have you ever walked into had the opposite, where you've walked into a party and felt down all of a sudden because somebody just had an argument or somebody's upset or whatever? You can feel their energy as well. And a lot of people take that on or feel that or go through that experience and go, oh, it's just me. I'm having a bad day. No, it's not you. Your natural state is happy, healthy, joyful, fearless, loving, and alive. And when you get around other people, you actually pick up their vibration, and that can take you down and knock you down. And the inverse is true. Just like the example you gave, you can walk into a room and light it up. And that's the power of energy. Energy is all around us.
I could not agree more. And for, like our listeners, like I mentioned, I mean, it's a very simple. I'm sure, like Jeff said, you've walked into a place where you're like, ooh, I don't feel good here. And it's because, there's someone there that's very low vibrating. As soon as I feel that, oh my gosh, I go as far away as I can, because I don't want anything like that affecting me. Even the people around me, family, friends, it's just, sorry guys, can't hang out with you today because I work so hard, just my own time and investing in healers like yourself to help me, because there's only so much I can do for myself. And so I'm so grateful to have been able to connect with you, Jeff. And just to pivot here for our audience of divorced women and single moms, like, what can they do to harness the power of vibrational healing to help them navigate the challenges and also cultivate inner peace because of where they're at right now, which is most likely chaos, turmoil, having gone through a divorce?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. It's a hard question, an easy question, right? So first and foremost, you need to remember who you are. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. Okay, this body is temporary. We sent our spirit ahead when we decided who our parents were going to be, and we had this body built for us. And then at first breath, our soul occupied this body, and then we're back on earth. Right? So you're a spiritual being first and foremost. You have no beginning, you have no end. So, and that's hard to comprehend when you get into this world of humanity, because this is a dense energy, very, very dense. And so you got to remember who you are. And eventually you've got to come to grips with the power that you really have, because you do have the power to create your reality and your response to reality and your own existence. And we're not taught that in this world. We're not taught that at all. So it's remembering who you are. And I know that for some people that's easier said than done, because you come into this world and the world immediately begins to impinge upon you. Like you're born into a family of origin that may not nurture you the way you need to be nurtured. And then you're introduced to a school system that's more about indoctrination than it is any kind of education. And you may also be thrown into a religious system that's more about dogma than it is spirituality and really knowing the Creator. So it's really easy to get off track. Really easy to get off track. So the number one easy thing to do every day is to get into nature and spend time in nature. For you, make yourself a priority. That's really what you have to do, is make yourself a priority. And one of the most profound meditations I ever had when I came out of it was, you can't give away what you don't have. And at first, I didn't understand that. And then as I took that thought into the world and started looking and living and creating and manifesting, it occurred to me, like, if I am constantly giving, give, sacrificing, I'm depleted. And so if I'm depleted, I don't have energy to share with other people. I don't have health to share, to be of service to others. I don't have money to to help other people out with. And so if you work on yourself first, make yourself the priority, and then give from the excess. We give from what you have left over, but you have to make your life, your existence, a priority, and your goals and your dreams have to come first. I know that's the opposite of what we're taught, but you have to consider how valuable you really are, and then work on that. So,
It's absolutely beautiful, Jeff. Thank you so much for that, because especially as a single mom, and for the, other single parents, single moms out there listening,
mhm,
please, this is your invitation to take care of yourself. Because, like Jeff is saying, you can't give what you don't have. And I know from my own journey, I was not taught this. My culture is Filipino, it's everyone else before you. And that did not serve me well at all until I came to my own answers. And it's going to be uncomfortable. When you start focusing on yourself, when you've been told and taught that that is not the way to go, that that's selfish, just know that it's going to feel uncomfortable. But what you become in the process is, more of an embodied and full and alive being. And especially as a single mom, your children will feed off of you. We're talking about the importance of vibration, and everything is energy. So Jeff, thank you so so much for, sharing your wisdom and enlightening us with just this knowledge, because you've gone through it yourself.
mhm.
And you've taught, what is it, 10,000? I mean, guys, Jeff is the real deal. How many clients? And you have celebrity clients too?
I have a lot of clients that if I told you their names, you would know immediately who they are. And to date, I have done over 11,000 sessions.
11,000 sessions. That is mind blowing. I'm so happy to be part of that number, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm grateful you are or
Thank
were.
Thank you. Yes. Oh, I still am. I'm going to need maintenance. So Jeff has gotten me, like I said, I was in that hopeful stage, 300, low 300s. And the last time I worked with Jeff was a couple months ago. I've been able to maintain it, but things happen still. And so I was in the mid 700s. And like I said, like we had said, enlightenment, Christ consciousness is 1,000. And when Jeff told me during one of our sessions, I was actually born, we're all born at a certain frequency, and mine was in the 800s. So I'm pretty close, and I can feel it. And also, life is responding to me, because what I've been able to do in 4 months, Jeff, and I know I still talk about you to all my family and friends, even though they think, my gosh, she's a little out there. But I mean, like, just look at my life. I've always been into metaphysics and all these things. So it kind of makes me, laugh inside when they think I'm nuts. I'm that black sheep. But then, I see how they're living their life. And it's like, I just wish you guys could be more open. Like, I just wish that you would realize that there's so much more than the flesh,
Oh, yeah.
so much more than the flesh. So, with that being said, speaking of metaphysics, Jeff, let's get into a time machine. And I'm going to ask you two questions before we wrap up.
Mhm.
We're getting into a time machine. And if you could go back in time, what's the one thing that you would do differently?
Oh, boy. Stop resisting. we, everybody that, especially if they're on this, if they're listening to this, I guarantee you have a dharma. And a dharma is a gift that you have to give to the world, whether it's your smile, your generosity, your kindness, your love, the way you raise your children, whatever it is, you have a dharma. And this world desperately needs that dharma. And you have guides, guardian angels, whatever you want to call it. And when you get off your plan, when you veer from that dharma one way or another, you will get gentle nudges. And a gentle nudge might be, you don't get that class that you wanted, or you don't get that job that you wanted, or something like that. But it's gentle nudges. And if you keep resisting, the nudges get bigger and stronger and harder. And in my case, they eventually became a 2x4 upside the head. And that can be something like losing a job or losing a spouse or literally getting so sick that you're unfunctional. And because that's the way spirit or the universe gets your attention, is through these nudges. And then eventually it's going to get painful. So I call it changing to inspiration instead of desperation. Desperation is painful. Yeah, I'd rather live my life out of inspiration and be a creator rather than just responding to this world the way most people do.
That's so key what you just said right there, resistance. And your 2x4 has also hit my head. I had a 2x4 also, and I could no longer ignore the fact that this is my calling. All the culmination of my pain and suffering and experiences and mistakes, which were actually lessons, is because this is my dharma, to give back and reach millions of divorced women and single moms.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you so much for being a part of it, Jeff. I'm getting so emotional because it's such a huge passion of mine.
Well,
so let's go back into that time machine.
Okay.
And what's one piece of advice that you would tell your younger self if you could go back?
Wow. Okay. So a little smidge of my background. I was raised in a Southern Baptist family. The very, very heavy Bible believers. And when I came into this world, I came in fully awake and aware. I'm what's called an indigo soul. You as well are an indigo soul. And these are people that have come into this world at this time to help change this world. And so I came in fully awake and aware. I had psychic ability. I would look at the minister and go, I'd ask my dad, why is the minister's, he has a wife, why is he sleeping with this woman over here? And I was only 4, 5, 6 years old. And I would have mastermind groups with my guides underneath the maple tree in the backyard. And we literally would sit down and have conversations. Now, my parents got really worried the more I exhibited my psychic ability. And I was at one time even beaten with a Bible, to beat the devil out of me. So my advice to me would be, do not shut yourself down. Because what I did is I began to ignore all those abilities and skills. And I'm also an empath. I began to ignore them. And I shut them off, shut them down, pushed them aside. I worked really hard to conform to my family of origin. And that's what triggered that 23-year depression that I started the discussion with. And I paid a hell of a price. It cost me 23 years of my life because I shut down who I was. So my advice to myself would be, don't shut yourself down to fit in. Be who you really are.
Thank you so much, Jeff. And thank you for sharing so generously, because I know just that story alone is going to resonate with someone here listening, especially as they're going through their divorce journey or trying to rediscover who they are. And perhaps if they're a single mom, not realizing the value and importance and how critical it is to really work on yourself, to get to know who you are and to embody your truth, which is an infinite and powerful being, a spirit in a human body. So I just hope that you guys can really listen to everything that Jeff is saying here, because it's going to change your life. And Jeff, thank you. So before we close up, where can people find you? What are you working on? And how can they get in touch?
Well, several ways. You can find me at a website called the Institute for Soul Evolution.com. That's where we have a lot of free videos and all that kind of stuff. We have a YouTube channel under the same name, Institute for Soul Evolution. So I try to make my work as available and as accessible as I can. We also have a program that goes off once a month now called this Miracle Activation for Lightworkers, where I go into a deep dive into this whole concept and everything that can get in your way. And I do healing work in those sessions. So that's what we got going on now. And then we're also creating a practitioner program. Like I said, there's only 162 apprentices in the world, and my mentor has passed away, and I'm carrying on his torch. And I need more of me in the world to really change this world in a quick and fast way. So we will launch the practitioner program later this year, where I will teach you how to move energy, how to shift your consciousness. And then you can go, if you choose, you can do it. Like for me, I got into it to heal myself. But then if you choose to take that and run with it, you could help others in a big and powerful way.
Thank you for what you're doing for humanity, Jeff. It just even takes one person doing this kind of work on themselves to be a better human being,
Mm-hmm.
which, has a ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be a practitioner. I will be a practitioner. I'm saying this right now. I will be a student for myself and just to have a greater impact on the people's lives that I touch, whether it's, in person, a client, a family member, just overall. So I'm going to be a student, just letting you know.
It would be a pleasure to have you in there.
Thank you, Jeff. And so, with that, I just want to say thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you. And I know you're an incredibly busy man. Thank you, Jeff. And we will be in touch.
All right, great. My pleasure.
That's it for this week's episode. I hope that with Jeff's interview and all the insights and wisdom that he shared with us today, you understand the power of vibration, working on leveling up your frequency, because everything is energy. Jeff's information is all going to be in the show notes below, so please be sure to check that out.